Weird. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. This evening, it's Tuesday, January 30th, 2018. This is a special meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good evening. Let the record reflect Commissioners Sobroff, Johnson, Figueroa Villa, Murphy Goldsmith, and McLean Hill are present, and we have a quorum.
Item number one on the agenda is council members' comments. Sylvia Robledo. Is that good? Yes, that's great. Good, okay. Is here as a deputy from CD1 and came to address us. Welcome.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the Commission for coming and listening to our stakeholders and our residents. We really appreciate you listening, and you're all welcome.
Use the microphone. There's a microphone back there.
Well, that's all right. I can handle it. So thank you to the commissioners for coming to our neighborhood, and I also would like to thank all of you for coming here. I know there's a State of the Union address tonight, but we have our State of the Union here in our community, so thank you for coming, and you're all welcome to come again and continue with your comments. We really appreciate what you have to say. I also want to have a special recognition and thank you to Captain Arturo Sandoval and Captain Al Labrada. They are wonderful examples of what captains are for our community. They listen, they understand what it is to be responsive to community needs, and we just want to let you know that our council office really appreciates your hard work and commitment to our community. And also want to recognize our SLO officers, Mark Allen and Officer Chang and Luis Reyes. You do an excellent job, and thank you for all your hard work.
Item number two on the agenda, the department's report relative to the update of implementation of national best practices. Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Good evening, Commissioners, Chief.
Good evening.
How is everyone? Good. Okay, so this is not the first time you've heard an update, but we do have some things that we have done that I'd like to report on and some things that are coming up as we look into 2018 for community engagement. Office of Operation has been instrumental in pushing the relevance and the importance of stressing the need for community engagement to be one of the goals and initiatives for 2018 so that we can further deepen the public trust. In doing that, I think one important measure that we can be extremely proud of as a department when this is all said and done is that we'll be able to monitor or measure community engagement. And I think that's the million-dollar question when it comes to community engagement. I've been communicating with other large agencies and no one's really doing it. So I'm hoping that LAPD can be the first to capture some data that's relative to the work of our officers without creating a whole extra layer of work. One of those things that we're doing that will come online in September is going to be the on the MDCs, which is the mobile data computers that the officers have. They will have the ability to dispo a code. So at the end of a radio call, they can dispo using a particular code that would capture community engagement. So as it stands right now, an officer can dispo a code by either arrest or follow-up or an arrest made. They can follow up with it entering remarks in that box with the code for community engagement. This way we can track it. This is yet one step further to begin the implementation of CompStatting community engagement. One thing that we are pushing from the top down is the importance of talking about community engagement to the level of CompStatting and evaluating our community engagement officers with our command officers. So we talk about crime every single day. We talk about crime in crime control meetings. We report on it, but one thing that we're emphasizing is that we need to talk about community engagement efforts on a daily basis as well. So we're looking at our crime strategies and how they overlap with community engagement strategies, not just after a critical incident, but after or during the good times, so that the police or the community see the police officers out there doing field roll calls, foot beats, engaging with the community, not just during the fair weather times, but when the times are good and when people can engage with the police and get to know who those officers are. So those are some ways that we can measure in terms of the number of persons that we reach and number of persons that we interact with on a daily basis. One way that we are looking at furthering to stress the importance of what community engagement means to the LAPD and the community is looking at ways to incentivize community policing efforts. So one way that we're looking at it is beginning to talk to our commanding officers about recognizing and commending officers for community engagement efforts. While we do that with Medal of Valor, Purple Heart, things of that nature, it's always related to crime, but the discussion has to change and look towards what our officers are doing from a community engagement standpoint and recognizing them and elevating their status as community engagement officers. So one thing that we're looking at doing in this year, in 2018, is a pilot program in which we can implement a senior lead officer liaison type position in our gang units. We were doing this at Hollenbeck area, and we're going to pilot in Central Bureau, where we've already seen positive effects of it, and I think that it has a lot of potential in which we can continue to standardize this and use this as a model citywide. Another way that we're incentivizing and looking at cross-training officers, involving all officers at all levels, is loaning our probationary officers to our community relations office as well as our community safety partnership offices for some of those areas that have CSP officers. Some of the other things that we're looking at to improve community policing efforts involve continuing the use of CRD, the Community Relationship Division, in expanding our read-along in a library program where we are not only just reading at the libraries and engaging with the kids, but we're increasing the footprint and the level of number of officers in and around the library before and after that time. So oftentimes parents are dropping off their kids at the library, but now we want the officers to engage with the other persons at the library for several reasons, not only just from a community standpoint, but this is where we can look at crime reduction in those areas where there is a higher visible presence of police officers in the area. One thing that we are going to do this year as well is our senior lead officer school had not been updated in several years. So we revamped that, revised the curriculum, chose a really impressive cadre of officers, and we hope to launch that this April. We'll have our first senior lead officer update class. So the goal is to have the entire city senior lead officers trained up with the updated senior lead officer school as well. Okay, and I think that's it, unless you have any other questions for me, sir.
Commissioners, any questions, comments?
I have some questions.
Commissioner Goldsmith?
Thank you so much for that report. Very pleased to see the expansion and incentivizing of community policing activities. A few questions. Really glad to see that you're planning to incorporate it into CompStat. And I understand that hasn't begun yet, but would be great if the department could come back to the commission once that has begun and share with us how that's going and how you're seeing that be used effectively to incentivize community
Absolutely.
engagement. Also, have you begun the medals and commendations yet around community engagement?
We do have an existing community policing medal and award. What we're doing is trying to bring it back or just really use it more often and more frequently and highlight some of those stories, not only through the official awards and medal process, but also through our PIO. We'd like to share a lot of those good stories that officers are doing. And I think this last year we've done a really good job of putting those stories out there so that now they've reached the media attention, social media, and just continue to highlight the good work of our officers.
Great. Would you mind sharing one now?
Oh, gosh, every day I could think of a story, thankfully. For instance, there's stories that you may not know about that don't even hit the news, and we try to put it on social media. But my last command at Hollenbeck area, my gang officers had encountered a girl. I think she was 11 or 12 years old. The officers later found out that she was a victim of a robbery, her and her mother. They found out they were homeless, living in a car, and the suspects had taken her backpack. So unbeknownst to me, the officers ran out to the store, collected money, they got her a backpack, school supplies, and went and delivered it to the family. No fanfare, they didn't want any attention, but those are the good things that officers are doing out of the goodness of their heart when they see that there's a need.
That's great. What were those officers' names?
I don't have those officers' names, I can get those, but they work, is Officer
Would love for them to be
Huerta.
celebrated on the
Huerta and his partner in
Right.
Hollenbeck area.
Okay. Also really glad to see some of the new initiatives that you're planning to do in 2018 around expanding youth programs and especially targeting some vulnerable communities, LGBTQ folks, immigrants, seniors, people with disabilities, some of the community surveys. So once you've begun implementing those, it would be great to have the department come back and share with us how those are going and what you're finding to be most effective.
Absolutely, will do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
Just quickly, there were a lot of great ideas in this report. I particularly liked what you mentioned in terms of every probationary officer spending a deployment period in either community relations or in the CSP, the Community Safety Partnership Division. I think that is a fantastic idea, and that will be very valuable for those officers to experience that. Also, adding a senior lead officer to gang enforcement, I think, is another excellent idea to help build community relationships. When this report was done by the IG, they identified the difficulty in measuring community engagement. And the fact that there aren't really any good examples around the country of departments doing it well, which shows the difficulty. This is an opportunity for us to be a leader on this and create an example for how other departments should do it. You've identified the challenges, defining what are the types of activities that we want to promote. I think we have to be pretty specific about what that means. Obviously, the measuring component is key, and I'm glad that in September you said we'll be able to start tracking that through.
On the mobile data computers, yes, sir.
Great. And then officers need to see that they're going to be rewarded for that behavior in the same way that they would be rewarded for solving a crime, for getting a gun, for an arrest. So those are the challenges, and we know that there are no quick fixes here, and I was very much encouraged by this report that we are on the right path. So I know I speak for all of us that we're anxious to see this further develop and have another report back in another 90 days or so to see where we are in developing these metrics.
Absolutely, thank you. Yes.
At the risk of being redundant, specifically with respect to Commissioner Johnson's comments, I too am incredibly encouraged by the progress that the department's made in beginning to seriously think about how to measure. And from my perspective, one of the critical pieces of that is moving from this amorphous definition or this amorphous notion of community engagement, which isn't, as I think about it, the sort of incredible one-offs that occur that sometimes make up the anecdotes that we tell each other, but really how we think about what this behavior is as an integral part of how every officer approaches their job. And when we get to determining both what we're measuring specifically, and also some standardized way of communicating to officers what we're looking for, so that we can then in turn both measure and incentivize those practices. I mean, that to me would be, that becomes something that's sustainable and scalable and where I think we want to go. I also do, fully appreciate and want to acknowledge that the department in taking this on is moving far beyond anything anybody's doing anywhere in the country. And in doing that, really leaning in to its opportunity to lead in a very, very important area. So, thank you, and I look forward to the next update.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment cards on item number 2A?
Yes, sir, we have 4 public comment cards.
Okay.
And we don't have the timer set up, so I'm going to time
Pardon
it
me?
for 2
I can't hear.
minutes. The timer is not set up, so I will time it for 2 minutes each. We have Bill E. Goat, Tiffany Guerra, Hamid Khan, and Jamie Garcia.
Okay.
Good. I also put in a card on number 1. So you have to reopen number 1 under Brown Act 54950. You know that, Steve, don't you? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. So welcome. Look at the 5 puppet commissioners. You have Steve Soberoff, the billionaire that built Staples Center, and also is the best friend of the
Mr.
former
Spindler
owner
or
of the
Mr. Goat,
Clippers.
whoever's talking, you need to stay on topic. If you want to come back and talk during public session, public comment on anything else, fine. So this is your last warning to stay on comment. This is regarding the update on the implementation of the national best practices.
Fucking agenda, fucking items, fucking 2, fucking A, fucking department, fucking report, fucking dated, fucking January, fucking 25th, fucking 26th.
Please turn the microphone on.
Fucking relative to the fucking update on the fucking implementation of the fucking national fucking best fucking practices as fucking set fucking forth. Fucking item fucking B, fucking P, fucking C, fucking number sign, fucking 1, fucking 8, fucking dash, fucking 0, 0, 5, 4. Recommendations for board fucking action. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Approved.
time's up. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Tiffany Guerra, please.
Is Tiffany here? Okay. Okay, welcome.
Okay, so looking at this, isn't it on? Okay. Looking at this report, which is an update on the implementation of the national best practices for policing, if we take a look at it, let's see, the second recommendation, D2, in that, to that point, Beck, you're saying in your report that you are now in line with the recommendation as presented in the 2015 report on best practices, but you're actually not. You used to publish the data that is required in that report, that's laid out in that report, which is arrest data, stop data, use of force. That information used to be published by the LAPD, broken down by race, which is really what we want to see, right? We want to know not just how many stops they're doing, what the use of force is, what the arrests are, but we want to see that broken down by race, because otherwise it's not really meaningful. So you used to publish it in that format from 2012 to 2014, and those results are pretty astonishing. That's on the website. And it's very, you can see that, that the black community is actually very heavily impacted by the stops, especially by the Counterterrorism Bureau in particular. It's like they're just being harassed and stopped all the time compared to the other races. And now you no longer publish that data. So now you just publish it in one big lump. You show the arrests, the stops, just one total. So when you say that you're in line with the recommendation of that report, you're not. You're not doing it. You're not showing us that statistical data tied to demographics. So that's what we want to see. So instead of voting yes on accepting this report, I would hope that we would instead set a date in the future for when Becca's going to get back to us and let us know when that data is going to be published with the demographics.
Hamid Khan.
Next speaker.
So I'd rather just speak to the community about this rather than the board itself. So what they're speaking about is a report that they have released, which is on best practices recommendations. And just as the previous speaker talked about, the reason why they're not publishing this race data is that we also have to understand that these communities become laboratories. These are testing grounds for new programs. The Northeast Division Predictive Policing was launched in this program. Predictive policing is a program that looks at past arrest data and crime data and deems whole neighborhoods as criminal. So what they say is that there's a hot spot, we're going to have oversaturation of policing in that community. This community is a testing ground for that program. Broken windows policing. Another program which has been discredited all around the nation, this community has been a testing ground for that policing. Gang injunctions, gang databases, which are now, they're being sued all around the country and in Los Angeles and in California as well. That has been discredited as well. So when they speak about best practices, we have to question that whose best practice are we talking about? Is this the best practice to target a community, to racialize a community, to oversaturate a community with cops, and to criminalize them en masse? Or is this the best practice to acknowledge and understand, because this commission is not going to ask those questions. The woman over there, Shane Goldsmith, who was earlier asking the question, we even asked her publicly that you're stamping on to a record management system for close to $500,000. Do you know what that is? She said no. So that's what we need to be doing. There's a whole hoopla about the new chief, but it's not about the new chief. The whole institution is rotten to the core. And that's what needs to be shifting. That's what needs to happen, because they murder people with impunity. They engage in this activity with impunity, right? So this is what we need to do. So please call them out and don't let them get away literally with murder. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie Garcia.
Okay, so I'm just going to continue down talking a little bit about predictive policing, because I think it's really important that communities are aware of these programs that are being used, and a lot of people aren't. The commissioners aren't aware of them. They're not aware of how they actually operate. So one interesting thing about predictive policing is that a couple days ago in New York, NYPD just got sued in regards to the secrecy of these algorithms. So PredPol is based on an algorithm, and that algorithm is based on crime stats. So crime stats go into the algorithm runs the crime stats, and it spits out these hot spots. It's kind of like a fancy ComStat. But where did PredPol come from? So they're coupling this, which is really interesting, with community policing, right? They want us to think that, we're going to use predictive policing, find out where the hot spots are, then we're going to send police officers to do nice things there, to engage the community and document it. But PredPol came from the battlefields of Iraq and Afghanistan. They were tracking counterinsurgency in Iraq and Afghanistan, and that's what they're doing to our communities now. And Jeff Bradington, the co-founder of PredPol, he actually used a picture of Afghani men and posed another picture of Latino youth to demonstrate who PredPol could target. Now, what community do we have mostly here in Highland Park? Who are our young men that are running around in Highland Park? And this is the program that's being used. This is the program that they're saying, well, if we couple it with doing nice things and we document that, then at least we can have that legal liability that we're going out and we're doing nice things in the community. So again, NYPD was sued, right? Because the algorithm wasn't transparent and they weren't being forthcoming about how they were using it. Well, LAPD should get ready, because we're coming for that algorithm. And they did it in New York, if they did it in New York, we'll do it in LA. We want to know what that algorithm, how that algorithm is constructed. We want to know what crime data you're using to run the algorithm. And we already know that this department has a long history of fudging crime statistics. So is this algorithm even correct? Is this program even
Thank you. The
running
next
a
speaker,
program?
Myra Ceballos.
Welcome.
Hi, Hi, good evening. I think I might go against the current here, but I've been working in youth prevention, gang intervention for like a decade across the city of LA, and I've had a lot of really wonderful opportunities to work both with communities and with law enforcement. And the only thing that I really wanted to say is that I look forward to the continued partnership with law enforcement. I've seen personally in my life, with my family, with my friends, with my niece that was murdered about a year ago, how the partnership, the engagement, the real connection with law enforcement and community can lead to some really meaningful interactions and hopefully to some long-term solutions. I think with big institutions, there are always issues and problems and cracks and things that we can do better, but there's nothing better than actually working together, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do that. Because at the end of the day, the impact that it's gonna have, it'll be on the youth, and it'll be on the people that are experiencing all of this negative, gang violence or whatever violence that they're experiencing. Whether we get it right at the beginning or not, it's always going to be an issue, but I think that it's a wonderful thing that everybody is working so closely to try to resolve these issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no other comment cards on this item, sir?
May we have a motion to approve the department's report, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item number 3 is the report from the Commanding Officers Northeast Area and Operations Central Bureau.
Okay. Good evening, Honorable Commissioners, Chief Beck, Mr. T. Frank, Inspector General Sibley, Carlos and Maria. Welcome to Ramona Hall and Northeast Area and Operations Central Bureau. We're really proud to have you here tonight in our community and to all our community members who came out tonight to support this meeting. I'm the Commanding Officer of Operations Central Bureau. Operations Central Bureau is 65 square miles. We serve the heart of the city. Central area, Rampart area, Hollenbeck area, Northeast area, Newton area, and Central Traffic Division. With me tonight is the Operations Central Bureau Command Officers, and if I may, I'd like to introduce them to you very quickly. First, Commander Howard Leslie. Commander Howard Leslie oversees our special events, and I just want to take this moment to recognize him for being the incident commander for the Women's March, when we had over 500,000 people come into downtown in LA and to celebrate that great event. Also with me is Commander Dominic Choi. Dominic Choi, where are you? Dominic Choi, you all know, is the newly appointed Department Homeless Coordinator and also vending. And we're very, very lucky and fortunate to have Dominic, who's so passionate in his work in Operations Central Bureau. Also with me this evening is Captain Mark Reyna from Central Area. Captain McNeil Gardner from Rampart area filling in for Captain Nolte tonight. Captain Al Labrada from Hollenbeck area. Captain Mike Ramkunis from Newton area. Captain Al Lopez from Central Traffic Division. And then I'd like to bring up Captain Art Sandoval, the Area Commanding Officer of Northeast Area, and Patrol Captain Chris Waters for a few words about their area.
Thank you. Hold on for 1 second. Mr. Spindler and your goat, you're disrupting the meeting. This is your final warning. If you do it again, I'm going to ask you to leave the meeting, because there are members of this community that have come here to listen to what's going on and participate in what's going on without having you or your goat disrupt the meeting. That was your final warning. Go ahead.
Commissioners, Chief, distinguished guests, and community members, bienvenidos and welcome to Northeast Area. The original Highland Park Station opened in 1925 at 6045 York Boulevard, which is the current site of the Los Angeles Police Museum. In 1978 that is, the name of the division was officially changed to Northeast Area after the boundaries were expanded. In 1981, Northeast Station moved to 3353 San Fernando Road and remained until a new facility was built and opened in January 10, 2016. And if you have not been to the new station, we welcome you and the community to visit. It's a beautiful station, state of the art. It's the jewel of the department. Since opening, 10 officers assigned to Northeast have been killed in the line of duty. Northeast Area covers 29.25 square miles. We serve 4 council districts. Council District 1 with Councilmember Cedillo, Council District 14, Councilmember Huizar. Council District 4, Councilmember Rue. And Council District 13 with Councilmember O'Farrell. We have 8 basic cars, and we service 13 communities. We have several significant landmarks within Northeast area. We have the largest municipal park in the city, Griffith Park, which houses the LA Zoo, the Observatory, and the Greek Theater. We have beautiful Dodger Stadium, which in 2017, over 3.7 million fans attended Dodger games and traveled to and from Northeast for 81 home games and playoffs and World Series. We also host the Elysian Park Police Academy and, of course, the prestigious Occidental College. In 2017, we had a 1.3 reduction in Part 1 crime compared to 2016. That was a 0.4 reduction in violent crime and 1.4% reduction in property crime. The majority of our crime in Northeast area is property crime. Over the past several years, about 84% of our crime is property crime, with burglary, theft of motor vehicle accounting for 1,818 crimes in 2017, and thefts accounting for 1,382 crimes. As to our violent crime in 2017, we had 580 aggravated assaults and 317 robberies. As to gang crime, we've seen a significant reduction in the past 2 years. In 2017, there's been a 25% reduction compared to 2016 in gang crime. And in 2017, comparing to 25, there's a 43% reduction in gang crime. And earlier, we had a young lady talking about the partnership with the community, and I think that's really, really important for us in Northeast. I think we do a really good job. There's always room for improvement, but we're really proud on how we handle that with our gang enforcement detail, with our senior leads. Earlier, we had a senior lead, Sylvia, thank you for acknowledging senior lead Mark Allen and Lloyd Chang, both senior leads of Highland Park. They do a great job. Unfortunately, we have a significant number of shootings in Northeast. In 2017, we had 95 shots fired, which was down 3 compared to 2016. The unfortunate thing is that our number of victims shot almost doubled. In 2016, we had 26 victims shot, and in 2017, we had 44 victims shot. But again, thank you for visiting us here in Northeast, and you're welcome to Northeast anytime. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Sandoval, and again, Commissioners, thank you again for being in the community, with the community, and hearing from the community. I just wanted to point out to many of you, approximately 2 years ago, we had a police commission meeting in Hollenbeck area, and we had some very passionate young adults who came to the mic and talked to you about a program that they had initiated in Ramona Gardens in Hollenbeck area called Through Our Eyes. And you immediately asked them to come and speak to me. I took my business card, and our collaboration has been wonderful in the last 2 years. We've held over 10 workshops in Ramona Gardens. We've expanded it to Rampart area and now into Newton and Pueblo del Rio. And it is my intent and my commitment to spread it throughout Operation Central Bureau. This is a youth-led initiative that talks with police officers one-on-one with them on an even playing field in their community to talk about how they feel. It really is to address communications and tensions with young people and police officers. And it has been a very positive experience for our police officers to go through this. We actually have a survey that captures the results, and I can definitely get that to you to review. And we just recently were awarded a $20,000 grant from State Farm to help continue this effort. So a lot of great things that come out of these meetings in the community. So thank you for being out here tonight.
Great. This is not an action item. Do we have any commissioner comments? And then we'll move to public comment on this item number 3.
I actually just do have a quick comment, and that is to sort of speak to some of our process. am thrilled to see so many people from the neighborhood that were able to come to this meeting because it's in the evening and it's not downtown, and want to welcome and tell you how much we appreciate both your presence and your comments. I also am always, pleased and acknowledge the presence of those members of the community and of the public who come to our meetings on a pretty regular basis, and am happy to see and to hear your critique. I just want to share that as a general matter, we don't interact from the dais with public comments. There are a lot of reasons for that, not the least of which is the Brown Act sort of limits what we can talk about, but we do hear you, and we do follow up where appropriate. And finally, there are people who speak to us all the time, and they're pretty comfortable with that. But for those of you who don't have that opportunity, every voice in this room is valued. And whether you are here to point out what you don't believe that either we or the department are doing well, that is legitimate and valued. And those of you are here to share experiences that you think are more positive, or to report on activity that is going well. Just know that that is equally legitimate and equally valuable. And I'm just hopeful that everyone feels comfortable saying what they came to say tonight. That's
Well
why
said.
we're here.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments on item number 3A?
Yes, sir, we have 3 cards. We have Bill E. Goetz, Tiffany Guerra, and Jamie Garcia.
Bill E. Goetz.
Okay.
Go ahead. So, thank you for all of that fake bullshit. It was very funny to listen to all of your lies. Yes, and also thank you to bringing your puppets. You're like that woman in the white, and I know she gets paid to speak, yes. But we know that the killing will continue everywhere. Down in Hollenbeck, hoo-hoo, Hollenbeck, hoo-hoo. And then down in Rampart, where me and my associate drove our big black truck with the tinted windows and no plates, they thought we were cops, yes. And when you know that they think you're cops, you park at the red and you get free coffee, see? That's what works. So, you motherfuckers, you do the lying, and we do the listening. And in the end, we know you're full of shit, especially on McLean Hill. Oh, isn't it nice that you can come here tonight and you can talk to all of us, and we're so happy. No, you're not happy. You're insane, because you know that the racist Steve Soboroff is the one running this whole fucking show.
So stay on topic, or your time's over.
Yes, master, yes. And that's why everybody calls the fucking president of this commission by his first name,
Time's over.
Matt.
Next speaker, please.
Tiffany Guerra, please.
So first, I just wanted to say that I'm very glad, echoing Commissioner McLean Hill's comments, I'm very glad this meeting is being held in the community. I hear your comments on accessibility. My kids actually, I have 2 kids. They grew up very close to here. They went to schools very close to here. And so I recognize the importance of having meetings that are accessible to the community for folks that can't make it down on Tuesday mornings to LAPD headquarters. And I also wanted to raise 2 points. One is that when the LAPD last August asked for feedback from the community regarding implementing drones and giving drones to SWAT, This was one of the communities, Highland Park, and also surrounding folks were some of the folks that sent in the postcards and that emailed and that called saying, no, we're not in support of this. This isn't something that we want. We don't want additional surveillance and militarized policing. So when you were voting in favor of giving SWAT drones, this was one of the communities that you were saying no to and that you were shutting out. And my second point is that when we talk about these meetings being accessible, we have to acknowledge that they still remain largely inaccessible to folks who are disproportionately impacted by police and policing and by lack of sufficient community services. And we know that we have a lack of sufficient community services because a lot of the city's budget goes to policing. So we have to acknowledge that these meetings in this space remains largely inaccessible to folks who are houseless, differently abled. Perhaps they have kids, they can't afford transport, they can't afford childcare, or they don't fit into the forced gender binary that we see enforced and reinforced in here, and folks who are black. Folks from these groups face barriers in getting here, and once they are here, they get singled out. And I say black folks because in the police commission meetings that are held at LAPD headquarters, that's who we see you single out, Steve Sobroff. The folks that have been arrested there have always been black folks. It's always a black person that you call out when a white person is doing the same thing.
Next speaker, please.
So I ask that you...
Next speaker, Jamie Garcia.
Talk about accessibility and making these meetings more accessible to recognize who we're shutting out and what the cost of that is.
Is there another speaker?
Don't put your black power fist on Steve Sobroff, will have you arrested.
So I was hoping that in this report back from commanding officers from this area, but also from Operation Central Bureau, may speak to the community a little bit about the programs that actually are impacting the community that LAPD runs. So we talked a little bit about predictive policing and PredPol earlier on, how it's coupled with these community policing tactics. But one thing we haven't talked about, and something that LAPD doesn't talk about, the commission doesn't talk about, is we don't talk about the new program Operation Laser, LA Strategic Extraction and Restoration, where they say there is cancers in the community that need to be extracted. So they refer to community members in their own documentation as cancer that they want to rip out of the community, right? So we know that this was piloted in Newton Division. But by 2017, according to the 2020 plan of LAPD, they wanted to expand it into 12 other divisions. So one of my questions, which would be nice if I could be followed up with by one of these commanding officers, is laser being run in this area? And I'll explain a little bit about what laser is. It's actually a secret heat list. So they took tons of people off, LAPD took tons of people off the gang databases, but what they don't tell you is they're actually creating another list of people who don't even know that they're on a list for tracking and tracing throughout the community. So if you've had a simple citation, if you've had a field interview card filled out, if you've been on parole or probation, if you have some arrest data in there, they have a special division called Crime Intelligence Division that will go through all that data and then we'll decide if they're going to put you on a list. And we don't even know how they determine that because that's not public. They don't let us know. And this list is not public either. So now LAPD is trying to whittle itself down on its gang databases while it's also creating another list of people that they're tracking and tracing through the community. So I would like an officer from this area to come to me and tell me.
Thank you. Is that the last speaker on this?
Yes, sir, that's the last speaker.
Next on the agenda is a report of the chief. Next on the, you can come back during public comment. Thank you.
No, it's a simple thing. Your commanding officer can come tell me.
Are they using lasers? Yes or no?
Beck, I see you staring at me. Are they using laser in this area?
I'm going to ask you to sit down now. Okay, we're going to go to the report of the chief. But before we do that, Chief, I do want to talk about the process regarding the selection of the next chief of police. The Board of Police Commissioners will be scheduling in the month of February in various areas of the city 6 community meetings to learn from the community their top priorities of characteristics in our next chief of police. Two of these meetings will be held on Saturdays. At our next Police Commission meeting on Tuesday, February 13th, the general manager of the city personnel department, that also plays a role in accepting the applications, will present the recruitment process plan to the public at the commission meeting. Additionally, there will be online surveys available in mid-February for the public to provide input. We'll further update this at the next commission meeting. Chief, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner, and it's a pleasure to be in Northeast Division. You know, this is a beautiful part of the city and very historic, especially for the Los Angeles Police Department. A couple of significant events that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, Chief Arcos talked a little bit about the march over the weekend. I also wanted to mention that I attended the Major City Chiefs Conference in Long Beach. Major City Chiefs is an organization of the chiefs from the most populous cities in both the United States and Canada, top 60 cities. So the chief from New York was there, Chicago, all the major cities. And the reason I bring it up is because all of us are dealing with the same thing. All of us are dealing throughout the United States and even into Canada, an increase in homelessness, an increase in all the issues that causes, not only for those that are homeless, but for the community that they live in. So, you know, one of the values of attending these meetings is recognizing that things are consistent, you know, and finding out that you're not the only one. And so I think that's a good message for Los Angeles. We had 2 officer-involved shootings over the weekend. On Friday, North Hollywood patrol officers saw a stolen vehicle, went in pursuit. At the termination of the pursuit, the suspect exited the vehicle and fired rounds at the officers. Officers returned fire. Nobody was hit. No officers, and the suspect was not hit. The suspect was taken into custody without further incident. On Saturday, Harbor area officers responding to a radio call at the area of Bayview and D Street were approached by a suspect who simulated a weapon. Officers fired 1 round, missing the suspect. The suspect was taken into custody, and we are trying to get him some help. He's had issues with similar circumstances before, so we're trying to delve into that to make sure this doesn't happen again. To talk a little bit about crime, you know, we gave our annual crime press conference the other day, so I'm not going to talk about last year's crime. I will talk about this year's because we have a month to look at. So far, homicides down in the city significantly. We've had 18 homicides in the city as compared to 29 this time last year, so that's almost a 40% decrease. Rapes are also down by 30%. That's 66 versus 95. And the only violent crime that is up are street robberies, and we've had 32 more of those than we did this time last year. So violent crime overall is down significantly, and every property crime is also down. So very early in the year, can't be used to predict a longer span of time, but a good start, much better than going the other way. I also usually comment on personnel. I know that one of the values of community meetings is for the recruitment opportunities for members of the community. You know, LAPD is hiring. You know, we hire upwards of 450 people to go into the academy every year. We need to do that in order to stay even. We have currently 10,048 Los Angeles police officers, almost 3,000 civilians, and about 1,700 young people in our cadet program. And I also encourage anybody that is interested in the cadet program to see any of the officers towards the back of the room. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief. Public comment? Comments on the Chief's report, I'm sorry.
Wait.
We have 7 common cards, sir.
Okay?
We have Philip Malif, Adam Smith, and Christine Gatson.
When it's your turn to speak, you can come to the microphone. but
Philip.
Now, it's disruptive to the meeting and the other people in the community. So if you can't control yourself, I'll ask you to leave. Go ahead, sir.
Don't be disruptive to you, Steve.
Last warning.
Whatever.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm the father of Eric Rivera. He was murdered on June 6, 2017. In the Harbor Division, LAPD officers killed him. It's important to say that Eric wasn't doing nothing wrong. He was simply walking down the street with his toy that looked like Buzz Lightyear's ray gun. And your patrol officers had something to prove because the day before someone was murdered. So your police officers were rambling around the town trying to find anyone to blame for it. That is bad police work. Another thing your officers did was they left their car and drive when they got out of the vehicle. That's bad police training. Another thing your officers did is hurt himself with their own vehicle. Your officer hit himself with his own police vehicle, thus thinking that he was getting shot at. Thus, your police officers opened fire on my son, which is just walking down the street. And at the same time, you gave my son a choice. Either get hit by a police officer's car that's getting launched at him, or don't move, or we'll shoot. So he had to either move out of the car, away from the car, or get shot by police officers. And you guys did both. You shot him 7 times, 3 from behind, 1 in the back of the head to kill him. And then you ran him over with your vehicles and literally mangled his body and burnt his chest with your exhaust because you left the car on all damn night till the morning.
Adam Smith, please.
Sir, I just want to say on behalf of myself, I'm very sorry for your loss. This matter, as I'm sure you know, hopefully you've been contacted by the family liaison officers who are here in the audience, but our process is, obviously the DA does her review regarding the criminal prosecution, possible criminal prosecution.
Process sucks. You had Peter come to our house and interrogate us about our son. Interrogate us for 20 minutes before you guys said, unfortunately, we then forgot to put your car in park. All you guys have kids. What if one of these officers did it to your kid? That's right. You didn't have down to the kid. We suffer every day, and we got no answer. Because your guys' officers, we suffer. Those always you put us through. It's not right.
Your force investigative officers told me they're going to give me a report. That's like Chris did. I recently contacted him. He said he's not giving it to me. That's bullshit.
We had to find out to get our autopsy, our own way. Everything we've done is our own way. No one has came up to us and helped us. We did all the work. We should be getting paid for your officers. We should be. We are doing the work that you guys are supposed to be doing. You have stuff on. All the training, where's the $10 million beamers? Where's that training? Where's the counseling for the guys that ran over Eric? Why do we have to wait all these months? Are they in counseling? I hope they're not. Do they feel bad? Have they tried to back? Have they talked to you already?
Chief, will you give an update as of any progress you can give on this?
Because she wanted to come and protest for her stepbrother, a 5-year-old. Because she knows what you guys are doing and allowing is wrong. Now what apology? Now what apology? Now what? I don't even know what they look like. I don't know what those officers look like. There's no information on those officers. How is that fair? It's not.
How do we know how it looks like? How do I know they're not in front of my house?
Let's let the chief speak.
And they're still patrolling, they're still working, they have to work the next day. How is that right? How can you guys stand behind 2 killer cops that are out there under your guys' time, under your guys' belt to support them? They should not be working. They get in behind the office answering phones. Why is that cop that
They're gonna be
drove
fired and
out of his car
prosecuted.
still got a license? Why does he got a license?
Chief?
It hurts. It hurts.
I can't imagine the level of pain that you're feeling. I'm very, very, very sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I promise you, this department takes these incidents very seriously. We have the investigation. The investigation, as you know, is ongoing. It generally takes about 11 months before the investigation is complete. And then once the investigation is complete, there's an analysis done by the department. There's a separate analysis done by our Inspector General and his team. They report directly to the commission, not to the department. We get all of that information. We get the full investigation. We get the chief's recommendation. We get the Inspector General's recommendation. And then this panel, you see these 5 people you see before you. I promise you, we take this incredibly seriously. We weigh every piece of evidence, all the facts, and then we make a determination about whether the officers acted appropriately or not within department guidelines.
I want a copy of the force investigation report, and I don't want to redact it.
Well, there are guidelines within California law. These are personnel matters, so.
Because I have my own.
You guys are all evidence stating that you guys have video of him.
You guys spend millions and millions of dollars on these cameras.
Yes.
Why aren't they called the press?
So, in terms of reports, there will be 2 reports that will be made public, both the chief's report and the Inspector General's report. They are redacted in compliance with California law. As you may have been reading about, this commission right now is working on a video release policy that would cover incidents like this one, and that's in process.
And I think that in sort of along the lines that Commissioner Johnson's been expressing, fully appreciate that there is very little that we're going to say that's going to be adequate to your loss. So all we can do at this juncture is just tell you what will happen, what the law allows to happen, but with respect to the ultimate decision that this board makes around the shooting of your son and whether that is deemed in policy or not policy. What we can commit to you, what I can commit to you, what each of us can commit to you is that we will make a decision, we will report that decision, and, we will be personally accountable for that decision. We can't be accountable for every other shortcoming related to this process, but we will be accountable for that decision, and I promise you that you'll know where we are and you can talk to us. In the meantime, I do want to say as well that I can't imagine anything more heart-wrenching than the loss of a child under any circumstances. And I think we all on this board have children, and trust me, there is nothing that you are doing or experiencing or saying that I don't fully appreciate your right and your frustration and your anger and your pain, and we're going to do the best we can.
Well, I hope you guys get used to our faces because we're coming out every week and you guys are going to learn to get to know us and what happened to our story and our son. And is there any way that, we could talk to you guys one-on-one, all together in a room so you guys can actually take the time to listen to what we have to say and what we need to be done because those officers are still working. And I don't see how that's legal. I don't see how that's right. gonna do about that? Because it's not right. There's 2 killer cops that are patrolling the street, and they're unpredictable. They're unpredictable. You can clearly tell that they work off of their emotions and whatever they're feeling at that time. They're not taking anything in consideration. So I don't know, what do we gotta do about that?
Okay, Chief, will you speak to the process, and then we can speak to the commission's involvement during an investigation?
Well, the first thing I'll say is, and I will echo what the commissioner said, I am very, very sorry for your loss. You know, it is an awful thing. I have 3 children. I have 3 grandchildren. I can't even imagine. And I understand your anger. I understand your pain as best as anybody that hasn't been through it can. I will promise you this, even though this process does not work as quickly as anybody would like, because we are bound by laws about the employment of police officers. Police officers have property rights to their jobs until a finding has been made and a decision has been made relative to discipline. So we can't arbitrarily in the state of California take away somebody's property rights, and we can't do that with police officers. If you want to hear me, you'll have to listen.
You can speak during public comment. Will you let the chief speak to the family? Would you respect the family and let the chief speak? Go ahead.
You respect them more than you do. Yeah. You yell them.
And I understand, and it has been reported to me that Family Liaison has been working with you and has been trying to help you in the best way that they can through this process. Now,
I don't want no help from any of those people. I want the help from you guys, because you guys are obviously the ones
well,
that have
those people.
Can I request something? Because from that lady that you introduced me to at the last commission with that male person, whatever the partner is, you know, they mentioned that there's free counseling for parents like mothers like me, and I can get some help, and you guys will pay for it. I don't want free counseling from any of your guys' side. If I can find somebody that can help me get through this, or a Grieving Mothers workshop, whatever, to keep me busy, I want you guys to pay for that too. I want to help you to get through this. You guys should pay for everything. You know, so help me, please. Let me look for somebody that I could come to and get counseling from this, and please help pay for that, because you guys already offer that. But I don't want to get it offered by your guys' counselors.
And the Family Liaison officers will do their best to help you do that. And, you know, we will see what accommodations we can make. And that, you know, they are my direct representatives. They work directly for me. The reason we have them is to try to help you to get through a very difficult time. And there's nothing that they can do that will make this better for you, but maybe they can help make it somewhat easier. So I just encourage you to work with them. You know, I understand they're members of the police department, but we also have psychologists that work for the department that may, and if you don't want to work with them, may be able to refer you to somebody else.
Because I live in San Bernardino County now. I'm not from LA is my hometown, but I'm in San Bernardino County now, so I have to pray to God every week to be able to get down here, and thank God He's been allowing it for me. But, you know, if I could find somewhere up there, you know, like, let me find somebody to help me through this, because I need to talk. I love talking about my son.
Well, I see my Family Liaison sergeants back there now, and they will do the best they can to help you find a group. And I know a number of them. I don't know any in San Bernardino, but I certainly know groups for grieving mothers in LA, particularly South LA and near to Harbor Division.
And when are we going to be able to see the video? Yes. I smell that the video as much as it's going to kill me. I have to see it. Please bring it up what happened to my baby. And I don't want to have to keep watching for years. And if you guys can see it, I should be.
Well, and nobody on the commission has seen it yet because it's not, the investigation is not done. They will see it when the investigation is done, when they make their decision. And at that time, it will be, there are means by which it could be made available. I would encourage you to work with Family Liaison, and they will explain all that to you on a one-to-one basis, so you don't have to have the conversation in a group of 100 people.
And ma'am, if you or anybody else in your family would like to meet with me, I'd be happy to meet with you privately and walk you through the process in a quieter setting where we can have an easier back and forth.
Same.
Okay.
We know the process, we just try to make this as public as possible.
Thank you.
For taking the time to actually talk to us. It's going on almost 8 months and we haven't talked to anybody.
We know the process is you guys commit a crime and then you investigate yourselves. That's the process. It's not for
Okay. Others, do we have other speakers?
The next speaker, please, Adam Smith, Christine Gatson, Valerie Rivera.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming to speak. Chief Beck, you talk about consistency, and every week, whenever there's an officer-involved shooting, your consistency in front of the news and whoever else is in the room is to exactly lay out what happened in that officer-involved shooting. So if the force investigation is going to take 11 months, you can't come out here on a Tuesday and say, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened, and set that narrative. If you're going to sit here 7 months later and be like, whoa, we don't know what happened yet. What did you say after the meeting in June when Eric got killed? Were you like, well, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened, officer-involved shooting, this is how it went. If you want to talk about consistency, and I know that you're soon to be former Chief Beck, but I just don't think you can come out every week and make these, and set the narrative for what happened in these officer-involved shootings.
Christine Gatson, Bill E. Goat, and Carlos Montes.
Chief Beck, in your report, you said that rapes are down, but you should clarify that reports of rapes are down. And really, how can you expect people to be comfortable reporting a rape to a department that has been entrenched in sex abuse scandals for 4 decades? It's a completely unrealistic expectation. You have no right to say that rapes are down because that's something that you obviously don't know, and you can't, because it's all about who's comfortable with coming to you. And I certainly wouldn't be. I'd like to restate my elation at the news that you're leaving the LAPD. And once again, congratulate Black Lives Matter for their tireless work that has finally resulted in your being fired by the people. There are 147 days, 21 hours, and 22 minutes until you're out of our lives, but the community will be cleaning up the messes that you have made for decades to come. Bye-bye, Beck.
See, that's what you do. I'm another one of your victims. Had a nice law practice, fucking ruined my reputation, illegally arrest me, surround me with guns. December 2017, you send DWP out to cut my power lines, because I'm suing you motherfuckers. I'm suing you motherfuckers, that's why. And I have federal judge in November 2017 ruled that Detective Eric Reed and Detective Nellie Nava Mercado illegally and without probable cause arrested me under PC 422A. And you motherfuckers haven't done
Off topic,
anything.
last warning.
It is about report of statistics of crime. Falsely arresting somebody is a crime, even if a cop does it. And you gotta stop this shit, Steve.
Fucking Malibu motherfucker. You got to stop this shit.
Off topic.
You got to start.
You're out of time. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker, Carlos Montes, followed by Hamid Khan.
Number one, motherfucker. How about reopen number one? I put a cure to correct out there. City attorney. You gotta reopen number one, have card at number
Next speaker.
one. Right?
Carlos Montes, please.
We're coming for your house. We're gonna fucking repo it.
What'd you say?
We're gonna repo it.
Wait, come say that again.
Steve.
You know what?
Let it go, Steve.
Because I'm gonna have a federal court get a judgment against you personally for what you did.
Okay, you're done. Goodbye.
What you did to me.
Bye.
All right?
Next speaker, please.
So get your city attorney to pay your bills.
Yes, sir.
Pues, Carlos Montes, I'm with the community service organization Centro CSO, but I'm also the elected secretary of the Wall Heights Neighborhood Council, who a year and a half ago passed a resolution condemning the killing of Jesse Romero by LAPD Hollenbeck. And regarding your incident report, I guess you do one every week, right? But I'm here to also point out that on January the 14th of this year, LAPD Hollenbeck again was involved in killing Christian Escobedo, 22-year-old young man in El Sereno. So my issue is with Hollenbeck Police Department that in 2016 they killed 5 young men, 2015 they shot 3, one survived, and he's in jail now going to court actually tomorrow, Echeverria, and now we have Christian Escobedo. My poster says, stop killing Latinos. We're in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. Stop killing blacks. But there's a problem at Hollenbeck Police Station. You got rid of the captain that was there. You have 2 new captains. But you have an issue with the police officers. The police officer that killed Jesse Romero August the 9th, Edwin Medina, had killed someone 12 days earlier. And your police report, your reports will say justify that it was justifiable shooting. In Jesse Romero's case, the video evidence clearly showed that he was unarmed. But you took the word of the police officer that he feared for his life or that he thought he was in danger. But the video evidence clearly showed that Jesse Romero, 14-year-old, was unarmed. So I'm just telling you that, you're right, you're going to investigate, you're going to give a report, but the killing is going to continue. You got to stop the killing. You're going to continue to be sued, paying out millions and millions of dollars to LA City Council. You've got to, we're here in solidarity to demand that Jackie Lacey prosecute these cops. And we support the demand that Black Lives Matter to fire Chief Beck. Thank you.
Hamid Khan, please.
So let's look at some numbers. As of January 29th, yesterday, 105 people have been murdered in the United States in 29 days. When you do the math, by the cops, when you do the math, that's every 6 hours and 36 minutes, somebody has been killed by cops in the United States. Last year in 2017, 1,188 people were murdered by cops. When you do that math, it's every 7 hours and 28 minutes somebody was murdered by cops in the United States. You will not hear that in the chief's report. Soboroff started this conversation about the hiring of the new chief. But when you listen to his podcast, when he speaks to Josh Rubenstein and some of these PR people for LAPD, he talks about that the 2028 Olympic is going to be a key determinant as to who the chief is going to be. He talks about that technology is going to be the key determinant as who the chief is going to be. So for some people who've been around for a minute, myself, 1984 Olympics, let's just go back. What happened? Massive militarization in the city. Machine guns, tanks, you name it, never went back. Gang injunctions, complete sweep, gentrification, and killing of a lot of people. So that's the kind of chief that they're looking for, because it's the institution. This is the technology that they're looking at. This is the LAPD's architecture of surveillance, and they know that too. This is how they follow us. This is how they stalk us. This is how they trace us. This is how they track us. Whether it's trapwire technology, whether it's through body cameras, whether it's through license plate readers, whether it's through stingrays, whether it's through dirt boxes, whether it's through suspicious activity reporting. Your son could have been a victim of see something, say something. That is a license to profile and a license to kill. That's the kind of chief that they're looking for. So it's not about the chief. It is a department that runs this. It is a department that is rotten to the core, right? 2011, 2012, 2015, 2016.
Next speaker, please.
We have no other cards on this item, sir.
Okay.
Now on public comments, we have 19 cards.
Okay. As Commissioner McClain-Hill said, although the commissioners are not allowed under the law to speak in the public comment period, we do have a number of officers here, and we may recommend that you speak to one of those officers about a specific concern or incident you have. The chief would be the one to make the designation. So how many cards do you have?
We have 19, sir.
Okay, let's go.
The first three, Gina Viola, Caroline Aguirre, and Philip Malik.
So here we are in the community, a community who voted against the use of the LAPD drones. Same time, the LAPD is having a town hall in Hollywood, where I live. How is this meeting creating accessibility for Hollywood residents? Tonight was my opportunity to meet with my Hollywood LAPD and find out about the safety in my own community. We need these meetings always held in the community at a time that is accessible to working people. Today you had a closed meeting to discuss the appointment of a new police chief. Where is the transparency in that? You preside over the most murderous police department in the country. You just heard statistics about what that means. It's time to include the community in the selection of our new police chief. The only way to do this is to hold public meetings that the community can attend. Accessibility has actually gotten worse as Soboroff makes it harder for folks to comment by interrupting and giving folks last warning as soon as they begin to speak. It is a hostile environment, especially for Black and brown folks at these meetings. I've been witnessing it week after week. Officer-involved shooting. You need to change that phrase. It is police shoots civilian. You are misleading the public by calling it officer-involved shooting. You're making it sound like officers are getting shot when it's officers shooting people. That needs to change. More of the same from this rubber stamp board will not continue to be tolerated. This board should reflect the communities that the LAPD serves. As of today, it most certainly does not. Thank you.
Caroline Aguirre.
Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening. A couple of things. Someone was mentioning about all the officers that have been killing others, and that there is a process for that. But what people didn't mention was during the last week and a half, we've had at least 12, if not more, police officers across the United States killed by criminals. Traffic stops, routine traffic stops, serving warrants, domestic violence cases, police officers doing their job killed. Okay? Now, I want to share something. First of all, I asked the police commission, I beg of you, I pray to you in the legal terminology, I ask you to do a thorough, comprehensive investigation regarding the female commander who is in charge of fiscal operations for the Los Angeles Police Department, which means she's in charge of all the money factors dealing with the Los Angeles Police Department, who was narrated on David Goldstein's special investigative report, driving the BMW LA Police electric car. Now, mind you, she's called a commander, and Lord knows I don't know why, because she's a civilian. That car is her own personal take-home car as a gift of the city of Los Angeles by LAPD. She used it to get her nails done. She used it to visit an elementary or a middle school. She needs to be fired or demoted, replaced, and that car needs to be removed from her and put back into the archives or wherever you have those cars stored. I asked the police commission to do that investigation, please. Okay, one other thing. I know the importance of
Thank you.
community development,
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Thank
The
you.
next speaker, Philip Malik, followed by Adam Smith and Peter Van Brennan.
Sir?
Yep. So your LAPD officers from the Harbor Division killed my only son, my only child. And they created the situation and the scenario of them launching a vehicle at him while at the same time they're saying, hey, don't move. And you train these officers to shoot in bursts of 8 or 9 or 10 to kill. Now that's not good, and you guys should, where's the rubber bullets? Where's the tasers? Where's the stun guns? Why do you have to use lethal force right away? My BMW, if you get out of it while it's in drive, it goes in the park on its own. Where's the technology? Right or wrong? You guys are negligent. The way you run the department is negligent. Your officers that killed my son were negligent. Prosecute these police officers that kill people. That's the only way that they're going to stop, because they already know they have immunity from you guys and from the DA. They're giving them immunity so they don't give a crap. They're going to shoot anyone they want. And on top of that, that's not an excuse. I feared for my life. That's not an excuse at all. You need to widen that range. And I already know that you guys have this thing where if anyone points anything at you, that you're allowed to shoot them. That's bad because everybody has their cell phone in their hand. That's everybody's hobby, to have their cell phone in their hand. Just like a selfie stick. Now, if you have the right to shoot everybody that has something in their hand.
Thank you, sir.
Adam Smith, followed by Peter Van Brennan.
Mr. Smith?
I just want to say I appreciate the comment earlier by Commissioner McLean-Hill about valuing the statements of folks that came tonight to speak, regardless of what they're here to speak for. And I certainly, by my speaking here tonight or by holding my signs, did I mean any disrespect to folks from this community. I live on the west side, but I think it's important to come to every police commission meeting that I can, to stand in solidarity with the communities that are disproportionately affected by LAPD policy, including standing in solidarity with my now friends, Eric Rivera's family, in demanding that this meeting is always accessible to all communities. And I know we've been through this before, but it's worth always bringing up because you guys hold these community meetings every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whenever it is, but it's like it's a hollow gesture. There's one agenda item. You all right? There's one agenda item, so it's not like a real police commission meeting where you guys have all these agenda items that you fly through. So the meeting needs to be more accessible. There needs to be free parking. You always talk about and stress the community outreach and the goals of community engagement, but as my colleague said earlier, right here in Highland Park in 2014, I think right around the time soon-to-be former Chief Beck stated he wasn't willing to sacrifice public trust for a piece of military equipment, the Highland Park Neighborhood Council voted against the LAPD use of drones, and as we saw in 2017, this commission approved the use of drones. The community here in Northeast and all communities came out strongly over and over again last year against the department's use of drones, and yet this commission approved it. I think we need to continue to amplify the demand of Black Lives Matter LA that Mayor Garcetti appoint members to this civilian oversight commission that can and will actually act as advocates for the public and not act exclusively as advocates for the police department.
Peter?
I'm Peter. I live in the Highland Park, Eagle Rock area. I'm not even sure if this is a proper forum for this, but I don't know where else to go. This is regarding mail theft in the area. We filed several reports, contacted the postal inspector, have had the police come out numerous times. Nothing's been done. On the evening of Sunday evening, me and my friend actually caught the suspect and turned the suspect over to LAPD. Within a couple hours, they were released. Nothing's happened since. They've been looking for this suspect for a year. They stole from us on 3 separate occasions. We have it on video. We have printed photos. And the officers didn't even want to look at that. When the officers came, they didn't even know what to do. They called their sergeant. The sergeant didn't know what to do. The sergeant said, just bring the victim or the suspect in. And within a couple hours, the suspect was released. There was no report filed. There was no incident number. There was nothing happening. It's like, you know, who's going to do the job for the citizens? I mean, citizens shouldn't have to become vigilantes in protecting their mail and their property. Thank you.
Chief Arcos is in the back, and he will talk to you about this incident.
He's raising his hand over there to the right.
John Lawrence Bacon, Charlene, Christy Scarpanius.
Hi, I'm Peter's roommate, and I just wanted to elaborate. So basically, this woman, I don't know, maybe she's crazy, has mental health issues, but she's been stealing mail for a year, and it's been reported. I'm also the lead on Nextdoor.com. If you're not on Nextdoor.com, it's like Facebook for your neighborhood. They will hear your voice. And people on Nextdoor.com we have a very clear picture of her. It was her that was at our place. It was actually Saturday night, Sunday morning. And we caught her. You know, you have to be a little crazy to stay up that late, but she came about 5:13 in the morning, and we drove the car down and blocked her into our dead-end street, and she had nowhere to go. When she realized that we knew that she had the Nissan Altima, she tried to escape. But the police officers, it took a while for anyone to show up, and we were concerned about that. The police officers had only been police officers for 5 months, fresh out of UCSB, and you know, it was Peter's father was a police officer for over 40 years at that police station that's now a museum on York Boulevard, and his brother is also a police officer. So who's been trying to work here, but you know, after 20 years can't seem to get transferred to LA. And it's give us your best. You know, we want police officers that are the best at what they do, that are able to, you know, not accidentally do this or do that, that aren't very, you know, new to what's going on, and that have the experience to know what to do and not have to call the sergeant and do this. And you know, they basically just let her go, and there's $10,000 worth of financial crimes that she's committed with checks. My next door neighbor, she's missing her freelance checks. She's a GRIP, she has 2 kids, and she's not getting any of her financial checks to make her mortgage payment, and it's just ridiculous.
Charlene?
Thank you for coming.
Hi there, police officers, police commission, and citizens of Los Angeles. My name is Charlene, and I came here to promote my Compassion to Police event, which is on Sunday, February 25th at the LA City Hall. If you let me talk, then you can hate more of what I'm saying.
Let her speak.
So, the reason why I'm doing this is because my dad is a 35-year police veteran. And my dad is...
We have to, please, it's important that everybody have the same opportunity to speak.
I actually love what everyone is doing, because this is the problem right here, okay? I'm proposing peace and compassion, and what's being met with that...
The lady who's speaking with your camera, that's your last warning?
You know my name, Steve.
I don't know your name. What is your name? Would you ask, the lady can be escorted out of the room now? Thank you. You've gotten your warning. Keep going. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead, sorry. Okay, so the lady who just said we're not getting thrown out, you are getting thrown out, you're out. The gentleman who's, I can't, you're out. So you can leave, thank you. It's hard to see from back here. Thank you for coming. Go ahead. There are people here that deserve the respect to give their speeches to. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Sure. So, I'm a positive problem solver. I'm a race relations humanitarian. And so what I'm here to do is present solutions. So when everyone's interrupting, you're directly impeding someone trying to present solutions. So by all means, continue to prove what I already think in my mind. I've got my... So my dad once told me, only once, what it was like...
Hold it. Do you have a speaker card? Do you have a speaker card? The lady who's talking, do you have a speaker card? No. Well, but if she'd like to speak, she can use her speaker card. If she's not going to use her speaker card, she can't interrupt somebody who does have their speaker card. Yeah, so that's her last warning, and it's your last warning. Okay, go ahead.
So, my dad once told me that he never ever would take a partner because he did not want to break civil liberties. And that caused him isolation and scorn from his fellow police officers. And so I have to believe that my dad is not the only police officer that doesn't want to break the law. I'm not going to believe there's only one cop in the entire country that doesn't want to break civil liberties. So I'm taking the risk to invite whichever police officer fits that description who doesn't want to break civil liberties to join me, and I will leave my pamphlets over here.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
The next speaker, Christy Scarpanias. Christy Scarpanias.
Next speaker, please. Let's let the speaker who put in a speaker card.
I have something to say to that lady, first of all.
Okay.
That if you believe all these police officers have integrity, then they should be saying something when they see an officer shoot another person. And all these officers should be fighting until the fires. I live in a community where I can reach my arm out, and Marlon Saicon was murdered, and he needed medical attention. I could reach my arm out the other way. And Cesar Rodriguez was murdered. He was murdered because he allegedly didn't pay $1.75. Okay, in my community. And I see things like in the Nickerson Gardens, you guys have murdered like 3 or 4 people in the past couple years, and your community policing gives them a concert with Kendrick Lamar and Rihanna. Is this your answer? And I hear this woman talk about community policing. How are we doing in the community? We're doing good. Good is not quantifiable. Good doesn't mean anything. Good means they're using this community policing to spy on us. I don't believe this commission is fair. We all know the laws are that if a police believes his life is in danger, whether he's in policy or not, he is allowed to shoot somebody. You guys should take it upon yourselves to have integrity and rise above and actually create laws that make this not the case in California, at least starting in our own community in Los Angeles. You should have an independent review that's not the police investigating themselves. I'm in school. If I grade my own test, I'm gonna get an A every time. This doesn't allow these police officers to challenge themselves, to not use a gun, to actually listen to the people and respect the people in their community. I love Cesar Rodriguez's family. I love Eric Rivera's family, and the pain I hear. Every single family has the same problem. They don't get answers. They're disrespected. Cops harass them and challenge them in their communities. They don't feel safe. There's information on these reports that are changed. This is not fair. You guys need to take it above yourselves to change these laws and rise above and actually be accountable in the community.
Valerie Rivera, Christine Gadsden, and Billy Goat.
Next speaker. Who's the next speaker?
Valerie Rivera.
She's not here.
She's not here. Christine Gadsden.
Next speaker, please.
Christine Gadsden.
Christine, are you here?
She's coming.
Okay.
Cynthia, if our comments are legitimate and valued, then why is it that most of you usually ignore us at regular meetings? You sit there passing notes, fucking around with your phones, blatantly ignoring us, and then you have the audacity to come here tonight and tell us that all of our concerns are legitimate and valued. It's really difficult to believe, and I quite frankly don't believe it. When the community demanded that you make police commission meetings more accessible, your response was to schedule a mere handful of meetings in the community in the evening. But that isn't enough. Every meeting should be held in the community at a time when working folks can attend. And we all know that these community meetings, these special community meetings, these handful of community meetings are nothing more than PR stunts wherein you can tout self-serving statistics and pat yourself on the back. There is no real business on today's agenda except business that serves to accomplish those aforementioned goals. Additionally, these meetings don't mean anything if you don't actually listen to what people are saying, just like you did last year with the drones.
People are saying, suck it.
You were talking to everyone else when they were interrupting her, but she's okay
Please
to
don't
interrupt
the
me.
speaker. She's right.
And
Don't
the clock
interrupt
is still
speaker.
fucking ticking.
That's your last warning, and that's your last warning, the speaker. So, Smith, that's your last warning. Go ahead, let her speak.
Perhaps you need to review what your responsibilities actually are before you find another lawsuit from the ACLU on your desks. The public commissions, boards and councils, and other public agencies in this state exist to aid in the conduct of the people's business. The people of this state do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. Did you hear that?
Next.
Bill E. Goat, followed by Michelle Dumont and Rob Kwan.
That's right. So let's start off with Jake Soboroff, Steve Soboroff's gay son who works on MSNBC. Sorry, taking it in the ass all the time. And then what Soboroff does, he goes home. Why did I raise a fagula? His poor grandmother, his poor wife. And so he takes it out on all of us. He got that bad family, you know. Then you got Josh Rubenstein. Let's close in his memory. Died of cancer, Josh Rubenstein. Yeah, dying of fucking cancer. Working for you motherfuckers, and then he gets cancer. How apropos, right? Because this people up here is the death squad. That's the fucking death squad up there. Look at the 5 of them fuckers. You got the smart one, the one in the red, she don't say shit. She just sits there and keeps quiet. She fucking smart because she ain't gonna say nothing. She's never been named in any lawsuit, you know. But she goes, you see at City Hall on the 3rd floor, she's running to the mayor's office right after the meeting. Mayor Garcetti, you gotta do this and that. They're gonna sue you, you know. So when you get fucking people get shot by the cops, called the Bain Act. Civil Code Section 52.1, 6 months you got to file a written claim. You haul their asses into federal court. 42 U.S.C. 1983, then they're going to give you those fucking tapes. They're going to give you all that information. But then they're going to come back and buy you off with a settlement, a confidential settlement paid by Mike Fuhrer and the city attorney to keep you quiet and cover up the cop's murder. So that fucking cop keeps his badge and his pension, right, Steve? Right. That's what Steve Soboroff is, covering up murder. But you know what? Good news. Steve Soboroff's worth $775 million. So he can go back to Malibu tonight at his beach house. He ain't gonna give a shit about this place. I just hope one day I can be a Steve and have a beach house too. God bless.
Michelle Dumont.
Michelle?
Rob Kwan.
It's really hard to know what to say to you folks. It's really hard to know. I spend most of my time now researching the police in this county who have killed citizens, residents, most of them under 20 or in their 20s. You're trying to kill off a whole generation of Black and brown youth. You're trying to threaten Black and brown communities to get into line and to be gentrified. It's all about force. Your cops act like an occupying army. And everybody is guilty until proven innocent, and then you can't even prove yourself innocent. I've listened to dozens of families talk about their experience with the police having killed a loved one, mostly a child. They get treated as if they are the criminals. The first thing that happens is their child is criminalized. They are told all kinds of stories and lies about what did not happen most of the time to make them feel like, oh yeah, it was okay for these police to kill your child. And then they get all this shit dumped on them. And nothing in response. Even worse, the response is, for the most part, these cops are back on the streets. Or they're in cushy desk jobs doing nothing.
Next speaker, please.
Rob Kwan.
Hi. I live in Highland Park, and I think it's important to remember that last year, LAPD paid out $80 million in legal settlements. 2 of those were for wrongful convictions. Each of those people spent over a quarter century behind bars. One was related to an officer who allegedly mistook a cell phone for a gun. He shot the man. That's this city.
Mr. Spindler, you can leave the meeting. We escort Mr. Spindler out. I've given him plenty of warnings. You can escort him out.
But the goat got the warning, not me.
Go ahead.
You wouldn't do nothing.
Go ahead, sir.
This city fought that case all the way to the Supreme Court, only this year settling it. LAPD's unchecked license to kill cannot be ignored. Know that picking a new chief who offers no change other than their race or gender puts a political Band-Aid on a cancerous wound. This city obsesses about broken window policing at the expense of actual broken families. Remember, it takes a village to raise a child, but just one arrest, one trigger-happy cop, or one deportation to unravel that village.
The next 3 speakers are Fernando Chacon, Laura Smith, and Megan Choi.
Welcome, sir.
First of all, thank you, commissioners, for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I actually work for a nonprofit organization, and I just want to tell you, First of all, I know that some of the people are not going to be too pleased, but I have to commend some officers here for doing a great job out there in community and putting their lives on the line. They came, there was some speakers here before me that came and said how many statistics of those that passed, and unfortunately, my condolences go out to those that lost someone. But I also have to tell you how many lives have you saved sacrificing your lives every day. So now the other thing I like to say is that working for a nonprofit organization, I've seen some great officers take the time out of their way to take kids so that they won't get shot or won't get involved with gangs to our center. And not only do they take the time, but I've also seen great officers take the time to say, are you hungry, to those kids and families, and offer to buy them something to eat there in front of other people. So these are the things that we don't see every day. The officers that do put their lives on the line, and thank you, because I know I've actually have encountered and been victimized of crimes before. But the first thing I do, who do we call? The men in blue. Those are the ones we call. At the end of the day, I do thank you.
I don't know.
And Mr. Beck?
Sir, hold on for a second.
Sure.
The lady sitting here with the yellow shirt, I gave you your last warning. You need to leave the meeting. You need to leave the meeting. Go ahead, sir.
But also
Go ahead.
Also, there's some other guest speakers that are using profanity. This is, you know what, we have a First Amendment right to speak. But at the other hand, they have to remember there's kids here. I see kids, and that frustrates me. That's why I have to get out of my chair, because I'm not here to hear that. I'm taking the time to respect each and every individual that's here, because I grew up in the Ramona Garden housing projects. I was involved with gangs at one point in time, but it wasn't by choice, it was by poverty. So, you know, I do respect. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me the time, and thank you for putting your lives on the line. Thanks.
Next.
Laura Smith, followed by Megan Choi.
Laura Smith.
Thank you.
I was the most disruptive, and I'm leaving on my own accord.
Mrs. Smith. No, I was talking to the speaker, not you. A little bit giddy back there. Go ahead.
It's been some speakers since this was brought up, so just to raise again, in 2014, in November, the Highland Park Neighborhood Council voted against the use of drones in this community. And as far as I can tell, there's no acknowledgement. It does not build trust in a community to come here and completely pretend like these things didn't happen. These meetings need to be accessible so that folks can come to the meetings, and once people somehow make it here, so then they can be in the meetings. Every single meeting needs to be at a time that is possible for working families to be here. I'm sorry, did I say something funny? My white privilege allows me to be here. The website says that 25 to 50 hours a week routinely each of you spend as part of this commission. If that's the case, at least a few hours a week should be able to be in an evening for this meeting to be weekly. The meetings need to have public parking that's accessible. These meetings should be regular meetings, not special meetings. Your website's incredibly ambiguous.
Next speaker, please.
Megan Choi, followed by Ivy.
Ms. Choi, welcome.
Thank you.
My name is Megan Choi. I'm a board member of the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council, and I'd like to speak on behalf of my organization, Ground Game LA, and also the Iraq Veterans Against the War. As we all know, violent crime is down in Los Angeles, but spending on LAPD has increased. The cost of this program is $2.7 billion a year, and you eat over 54% of the general fund. That's for us. That's for the community. When we have the most lethal police force in the nation for a progressive city, that is beyond disgusting. I don't know how we call ourselves a progressive city. I am ashamed, and you should be too. Los Angeles is the epicenter of the crisis on homelessness, mass incarceration, and police violence. You know this already. It's on you to take that on. We have families here who have received no justice. My friends and I have witnessed homeless sweeps under the guise of hope teams where a woman had her medication and her bras thrown out into the street. How do you expect people to recover from that? People are getting killed and jailed, and it's on you, it's on the commission. We need LAPD out of schools. We need to decriminalize homelessness, decriminalize poverty, and disarm the cops. Thank you.
Ivy, followed by Hamid Khan.
Welcome.
I'm just going to reiterate the importance of having these community meetings in the community, accessible to everyone. That needs to be the case for every single meeting. Bottom line. Also, it's really frustrating to listen to the focus on these little fixes within this institution of violence, because the police department is inherently violent. And I think focusing on these little fixes is sort of the trick of white supremacy. It invisibilizes the structural, the systemic violence that our communities are going through, that's especially inflicted upon communities of color. It's not being recognized here. It's not being recognized by the people on this board, and it's really frustrating. Cynthia Hill, you mentioned having a space where everyone felt comfortable talking. Who would feel comfortable walking into a room with 20 police officers, 40 guns, tasers? I mean, a lot of these families have been personally traumatized by the police force here, and they are forced to walk into this room and try to raise their voice. That's absurd. Who are they protecting? They make up the violence that is the glue holding this system together, this monstrous, militarized force that is occupying our communities. It is absurd. It is a real disappointment. You don't even recognize our humanity.
Hamid Khan.
I want to acknowledge one thing, that I'm not from this community. I don't live in Highland Park, so I want to acknowledge that I am a guest in your community. And the reason why we are here, I'm a part of a group called Stop LAPD Spying Coalition, so we can bring the story to your community because of the propaganda that you hear. Before this love fest goes on with LAPD, this is their own document from the Inspector General. Now, from 2012 to 2014, there's about 31,000 complaints and their own internal investigation, right? 5,134 instances of neglect of duty. 6,637 allegations of unbecoming conduct. 5,304 instances of discourtesy. On and on and on. This is a 43-year history of LAPD's domestic violence, sexual abuse, and child sexual abuse. And if you read this is so morbid. 14-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, no inaction taken. People have been speaking about your community of what happened in November 2014 when your own neighborhood council voted against the drones. And what was their reason? Let me just read that. This happened on November 6, 2014, the Highland Park Neighborhood Council. And they said that people all over the United States have expressed shock and anger over the rampant militarization of police and are demanding an end to the use of military-style tactics and weaponry by law enforcement. The impact has been devastating on communities across the country. The use of drone technology further militarizes law enforcement and sends a chilling message to our communities. Drone surveillance equipment in the hands of LAPD will continue to unjustly profile the people of LA, create a culture of fear and suspicion, and invade our privacy. Your community said that. This is Assistant Chief Beatrice Kirmala. She led the charge to get the drones. She may be your next police chief.
Next
as well.
speaker.
So this is
Next
how
speaker.
John
Avalos you're the
Rios.
next speaker, John.
John Avalos Rios and Carlos
Thank you.
Montes.
Welcome, sir.
Testing 1, 2. Hi. I went last summer and part of this summer to all your meetings. I live over here in Highland Park, up near at the border of Highland Park and Eagle Rock. I cannot go to those meetings anymore downtown at the police commission. It's that feeling of just, I get real nervous, all these cops around me, and then you go through this inspection thing, and every cop, each time that I went, had a different attitude and a different mood of how he treated us as we went through those inspections. I think somebody here should make a motion that all these meetings you establish when they are regularly here, we need to know when the meetings are going to be held here all the time. I work with children for many years. I teach dance, I teach music. And what I would do if you establish the meetings where they're going to be each time, I would go to all the high schools and I would go to civics classes, Chicano studies classes, black studies classes, where the students get extra credit to come here and see this abuse and this disrespect that you have for the people. I want to be able to do that, but somebody needs to make a motion that you say when the meetings are going to be and leave it like that forever so that we can go and tell the high school kids and the college students to get over here. They need to be educated and informed, and you are keeping them uninformed, the college kids and the high school kids. And you know what that's like, Senora Figueroa Villa. I worked in a voter registration project in Echo Park for you. And I know how to go to those high schools and get those kids motivated to come here. So please, somebody make that motion right now that you establish the regular meetings in the community, the date and time, and it constantly repeats.
Thank you. I think this is the last speaker.
This is the last speaker for Carlos Montes.
Yes, sir.
Make the motion, Sandra.
No, I want to speak. My name is Carlos Montes, Community Service Organization, but also the Boyle Heights Neighborhood Council Secretary. We passed a resolution. We didn't do it on the drones because maybe we didn't get time, but we passed a resolution to oppose the iWatch program. I'm here to complain about the LAPD spying. Okay, I was a victim in the 60s, 70s of the PDID, Public Disorder Intelligence Division, that infiltrated and disrupted Chicano civil rights organizations. Every year in Boyle Heights, we hold the May Day celebration, protest march for immigrant rights, and recently we had to add, unfortunately, police killings. Peaceful families, students from Roosevelt, families from the elementary schools with children. We marched down Chavez, we held a rally at Mariachi Plaza. This last year, we had 5 undercover police officers, right? And they were pretty obvious to me. Most of the people didn't realize who they were, but I had, I'd seen them earlier having lunch and playing car and everything. I took pictures of them, and I did call, the folks in charge of Hollenbach. I told me, you had your folks out there. Yeah, they were our folks. I said, what are they doing there? We don't need them. We don't, to us, we have the freedom of speech, and also we do the permit. I know some of the locals complain that we shouldn't ask for a permit, but we'd like to protect our families from the traffic. Anyway, my issue again is that we don't want undercover cops within the march and rallies. Okay, inform whoever you got to inform. I did call one of the captains, I won't say which one, but she said, yeah, those are our folks, and they were there in case there was any outside agitators coming for violence. At Ball Heights, when we have a march, the so-called outside agitators will not come. You know, the so-called, people that wear hoods, whatever, they know better than to come to our marches. They're peaceful, militant, demanding immigrant rights and stop police killing. So don't
Thank you,
sing
sir.
on.
We have no other cards, sir.
No other public comments? May we have a motion for adjournment of the meeting, please? We have a motion for adjournment of the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
I had two speaker cards I passed on, but I just want to close it off with something.
Why don't you just come up to the microphone? We'll adjourn the meeting, but we'll listen. Meeting's adjourned.
I just want to say thank you, God, for giving me the strength and the courage and the words and the ability to be here. I am eternally grateful. You know, I'm so blessed to have had Eric for the little 20 years that I had him, but he's with me every day. And that's why I'm here, because I love him. And if it wasn't for God, I probably wouldn't be here. He's helped me to get to where I need to be right here this day. I'm here for a reason. This is my destiny. You know, unfortunately, it's happened the way that it's happened, but my destiny is to fight for my son and to hope that a better change happens with how officers are handling the situations that they're approaching to, and how the people that are higher up are also handling these situations. I just want to make the world a better place. I think this world is a very beautiful place, and unfortunately, losing my son has made me realize how much life is really precious, and I'm just really grateful for having him and for being his mom. But I owe it all to God, because I know God's got my back, and I know He's the one that's guiding me to do the things that I need to do. And so I just wanted to take the time to say thank you to God, and thank you to Eric. And also thank you for the community that has had my back since day one, and for my beautiful family. And I see a lot of the officers that are here, and I hope you guys are really good cops, because we need good cops on the force. And it's nice to be able to see the female cops. I think we should have a lot more female cops, especially patrolling. I think female cops should be patrolling a lot more. So it's really nice to see female cops, you know, and I hope you guys have a heart, and I hope all of you guys have a heart. And if you guys happen to make mistakes, live up to it, because in the end, the only person that you guys have to answer to is God. And we have to make right with our wrongs. So if you guys are good cops, keep up the good work. If you guys are if any of you guys are bad cops or don't have compassion or don't have a heart, get out, please. Do us all a favor and just leave, because you're just gonna cost the city more and more money. So I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to listen to us and for speaking to us. And I look forward to seeing you guys more. And I look forward to you all getting to know me and my family and Eric. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We didn't vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you all for
meeting
coming this
adjourned.
evening.
Thank you.